Gimana wajah macam aku?
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
I welcome you all for today's session of reassessment proceedings under Section 148 and 148A of the IT Act Bill 2022 and about latest judicial pronouncements. Today's session will be taken by CA Bhupendra Shahji. Before we start our session, I'll request members to stand for the ICI motto song, please. Hello. Bhupendra sir, I welcome you today on behalf of the Andheri West Study Circle.
Thank you very much.
Before starting the session, I'll give a brief introduction about Bhupendra sir. Mr. Bhupendra Shah is a BCom and a fellow chartered accountant. He has been in professional practice since 1981. He has completed ISA course in June 2005. In 2015, he was appointed as a special invitee to the PDC committee by the president of the ICAI. 3 of his webcasts, namely Opportunities for CA in ADR, Amendments to Arbitration and Conciliation Amendment Ordinance 2015, and third, the Assessment of Share Capital and Share Premium, have appeared on ICAI TV. He has once been appointed as reviewer of tax audit by the Quality Review Board of the ICAI. He has delivered many lectures at DTRTI of IT department for departmental officers themselves. He has given lectures for various different organizations, study circles, RRC of ICAI. To name a few, these include many study circles of Mumbai, study circle of Ajmer, Ahmedabad, Ahmednagar, Baroda, and many others. His other areas of specialization include direct taxes, drafting, consultations, appellate work up to CIT appeals and tribunal level, search and seizure matters, family arrangements, and a few others. Other areas of expertise also include peer review board of the ICAI of India. He has been on the panel of Financial Review Report Board of ICAI. He has been appointed as a resource person on CPE of the ICAI, and he also appears before the disciplinary committee of ICAI as a counsel. He has written many articles for our CA Journal, for corporate and professionals today, for Taxman publications, Tax Samachar, Assam CITC, and many others. He has authored a book on CPE material which goes by the name Arbitration for the ICAI in 2005 and 6. He has been an arbitrator on Bombay Stock Exchange for 6 long years from 1998 to 2005 and again from 2016 onwards. He has been an arbitrator on NSC from 2016 onwards. One of his judgment has also won a historical award, which was a 109 typed pages award, which has been upheld right up to the Supreme Court and is now a reported case law. He's a life member of the Indian Council of Arbitration, New Delhi, and is also on the panel of arbitrators of East India Cotton Association. He's also on the panel of FICCI and has handled most complicated arbitrations, both ad hoc and for institutional. And he has also acted as a faculty at the courses organized by the ICAI and WIRC on arbitration in the past. Sir, on behalf of Study Circle, I once again welcome you today for this session and request you to take the session forward today.
Thank you very much. Are you able to see my screen? Hello?
Sir, your screen is visible.
Can you see the screen?
Yes, sir, it is visible.
Okay, fine. Good morning, everybody. Good morning,
Yes,
everybody.
the screen for
Hello?
minimize the screen, the PPT for better experience.
That I'll be sharing at the end.
No problem. No, should be fine.
Good morning, everybody. Today's session, before we begin, it is for learning. Learning means we require the blessings of Devi Saraswati. So with her blessings, we start off with the Today we'll be discussing intricacies of assessment and reassessment proceedings under section 148, 148A, old versus new provision, and recent amendment made in the budget. सहज मिले सो दूध है, मांगी मिले सो पानी, कहे कबीर वह रक्त है, जामे एचा तारी. What does it mean? जो चीज बिना मांगे स्वतः मिल जाए वो दूध के समान है, जो मांग कर मिले वो पानी के समान है. लेकिन कबीर जी तो कहते हैं जो चीज जबरदस्ती मिले उसे खून के समान मानो. तो रीअसेसमेंट इज जबरदस्ती. Now let us straight away start with technical session of reassessment. First of all, before we start with reassessment, we should understand what is assessment. Assessments are of basically two types. Intimation under section 143. One, thereafter, if your case is selected for scrutiny, it is under section 143, 2 and 3. Again, under section 143, 2 or 3, if you do not appear or if you appear with inadequate details, it can lead to ex parte assessment, that is 144. If you appear properly and with the adequate details, it will lead to assessment under section 143.3. Now, under both circumstances, under the old act as well as the new provision, there are provisions to safeguard the interest of revenue, and they are embodied in under section 147. Let us understand, before the Finance Act of 2021, what was the position? If the assessing officer has reason to believe, so on reason to believe, we will see in a few minutes from now, there are n number of litigations. If the AO has reason to believe that any income chargeable to tax has escaped assessment for any assessment year, he may means it is not compulsory, it is not shall, subject to the provisions of 148 to 153, assess or reassess such income. Why the words assess and reassess are used in the reassessment provision? Because if there was no scrutiny assessment, there was no assessment order. For example, cases under 143.1, only intimation was issued by CPC, then there is no proper assessment. So in that case, there will be assessment under section 147. If it is already scrutinized, then there will be reassessment. Such income and also may any other income chargeable to tax. For example, your reassessment is initiated on the basis of, say, bogus donation to certain trusts. But during the course of reassessment proceeding, if the AO comes to know that apart from bogus donations, you also have bogus share capital, bogus premium, bogus loans, bogus gifts, and whatnot, which comes to his notice subsequently in the course of assessment proceedings, or then he can recompute the loss or depreciation allowance or any allowance, or reassess the income as the case may be for the assessment year concerned. So this is the old provision which existed before the Finance Act 2021 came into picture. Now let us understand. This provision triggered several cases and judgments. Some of the few judgments which are very important from the point of view of assessee as well as assessing officer have been highlighted in the box. First was L. M. Das versus ITO 103 ITR 437 Supreme Court. Imagine in 1976 Supreme Court held that reopening is not automatic. There should be direct nexus or live link between the material coming to the notice of the ITO and the formation of belief. Because under old 147, what was the main condition? AO has reason to believe. So it is not automatic. And for reason to believe, what was necessary? Direct nexus. For example, certain hospital is charging very heavy amounts to the patients. It is only rumor. There is no direct nexus or live link. Unless there is some material in the possession of the AO, he could not have formed reason to believe. Second, Calvinator of India. For example, an assessment of a company that is an unlisted company, whether it is private or public, which is unlisted, was completed. The AO asked for the details of share capital, share premium. But again, on the same share capital and share premium, the AO was reopening assessment of that assessee even after 143(3) order. Was it valid? Supreme Court in 2010 in 320 ITR 561 held that no, same issue cannot be agitated again under reassessment because that amounts to change of opinion. Calvinator of India Limited. Another judgment which was very important, Ganga Saran and Sons Private Limited, 130 ITR, page number 1, Supreme Court held that under section 147, reason to believe is far, far stronger than is satisfied. So just because I am satisfied as a AO, I cannot reopen the assessment. Yes, reason to believe means there should be a direct nexus or live link. So it is a stronger part which was required. Say, for example, DBO report. Assessing officers were reopening on the basis of DBO's report, District Valuation Officer's report. Supreme Court said nothing to read, nothing doing. In the case of Daria Construction Company, 328 ITR 515, Supreme Court held that just on the basis of DBO report, you cannot reopen because there is no reason to believe. Now we will see in a few minutes from now that in the Finance Act of 2021, Section 147 is drastically amended, on which thousands of litigations are going on. Now let us see the new section. It is very important to understand bare section because without which any question if you raise, it will be nothing but only an imaginary question. So let us make our foundation stronger. What was the amendment? In 147 was amended in Finance Act 2021. It says, if any income chargeable to tax, you can see reason to believe is dropped. So any onus on the AO is now totally not required. So all these judgments are totally overruled, fully overruled. In the case of an SSC has escaped assessment for any assessment year, the AO may subject to 148 to 153, assess or reassess income or recompute loss or depreciation or deduction for such assessment year refer to the relevant assessment here. So you can see major two changes are there in the section. Reason to believe is dropped. So now reopening will be rampant and in quantities. Every day you must be receiving certain notices. In the client's case or your own case, under section 148, reopening the assessment because reason to believe is dropped. Now you can see that any other income, for example, I told you that now under new provision, there is no requirement of mentioning that suppose an reopening is made on the basis of bogus purchases and later on assessing officer comes to know there is a bogus loan also. So whether he can assess 147 bare section does not permit so. But let us go ahead. Now explanation 3. Under old provision, there was an explanation 3. For the purpose of assessment or reassessment, the AO may assess or reassess the income in respect of any issue which has escaped assessment and any issue such comes to his notice subsequent in the course of assessment. This explanation is still there in the new provision. But only difference is that this was already in the body of section 147. Now it is removed from the body of 147 and this is now only in the explanation. Now somebody can argue that explanation 3 is written in explanation. There is no numbering in the new provision. But 1, 2, and 4 are not appearing in the new section at all. So now can you argue? There was a judgment of Jet Airways, Bombay High Court. What it says? Suppose reopening is carried out by the AO in respect of, say, bogus share capital and share premium. If AO is satisfied that no bogus share capital and share premium is obtained by the assessee company and under 148, it drops that assessment. Then Jet Airways judgment of Bombay High Court held that if no addition is made on the basis of reason for reopening, then other items, even if they may be bogus, they cannot be added. Now, if we see, this says same explanation is there that addition for which the reopening is made must be made by the AO. Then the whole assessment is open. Sun Engineering. Once the assessment is open, each and every issue can be tackled by. In fact, in the new provision, it is mentioned that irrespective of the fact that provisions of section 148 have been not complied with. Why it is mentioned there? Because your reassessment is, say, reopened for bogus share capital and share premium. So 148A approval is taken only for that. So assessee cannot take the plea that now bogus loan is also added by the AO, but for which no permission is taken. So explanation itself enables the AO to assess any issue which comes to his notice during the course of reassessment. So this is very, very drastic amendment. Now let us go to section 148. These we are discussing vis-a-vis new provisions of Finance Act 2021. What it says, before making the assessment, reassessment or recomputation, assessing officer subject to the provisions of 148A shall serve the assessee a notice. There was a word shall. So it is mandatory to serve notice under section 148A. So you have seen that many notices which you have received after 1/4/2021, they are not under section 148A. So thousands of writ petitions are filed by the assessees before the various high courts, praying for the justice and saying that no procedure under section 148A is followed by the AO, and which was mandatory. So the notice issued by the AO is null and void. What was the other requirement? That approval order under section 148AD, which approval we will see in a few minutes from now, must be attached with the notice. So what were the two requirements? Approval under section 148A and service of notice under section 148A along with the order copy passed under section 148AD. Thereafter, the provisions are same that you file the fresh return pursuant to section 148, and thereafter they have to file, assessees have to file the return of income. Then they will come to know what were the reasons for reopening. Now, there is a proviso. Income tax is the most complicated act ever seen in the history of Indian legislation's history. Now, what is a proviso? It says that no notice under section 148 shall be issued unless there is an information with the AO which suggests that the income chargeable to tax has escaped assessment and with the prior approval. So two requirements are that information should be there and there should be prior approval. So no reason recording, nothing is required, not even reason to believe, nothing. So it is very draconian power. Now, as I told you, explanation 1 to 148, what it says, for the purpose of this section and section 148A, I told you there should be information. Okay, information should be there, and if information is there, there should be some source of information. What is the source of information? That information is flagged in the case of the assessee for the relevant assessment year as per the risk management strategy formulated by CBDT. For example, cash deposit about 10 lakhs. Automatically, specified financial transactions are reported by the respective recipients of cash, say bank. They have already filed accepted, which will appear in the information, and that can become the basis of reopening. Another basis, that there is a final objection raised by CAG, Comptroller and Auditor General of India, to the effect that assessment has not been made in accordance with the provision of Act. So now, as I told you, approval is required and information is required. Information can be from two sources: flagging by CBDT policy or final objection, not the preliminary objection, only final objection raised by CAG. As you are aware that after your assessments are over under section 143.3, there are two types of audit. One is by CAG, Comptroller and Auditor General, from central government's officers, and they give preliminary objection which are not resolved. They result into final objection, which can be source of reopening. Now a question may arise in your mind that first, information flagging is okay, but whether CAG is an authority under Income Tax Act or not. You may be surprised that there is a judgment of Supreme Court in the case of India and Eastern Newspaper Society, 119 ITR 996. And in this case, it was held that no reassessment can be made only on the basis of audit objection. And you may be incidentally pleased to know that this is judgment of 1979, the year in which I was appearing in final CA. The same question was asked to me, whether AO can reopen on the basis of audit objection. I clearly wrote that India and Eastern Newspaper Society debars such power to the AO. And till 2021 Finance Act, this was being followed. Now, by inserting explanation 1 into bracket 2, this judgment is overruled. In fact, statutory recognition is given to the audit objection raised by CAG in a final format that can become the basis of reopening, and now this judgment has no value. Now, a question may arise in your mind whether this judgment is a constitutionally valid judgment or not. First plea raised by the propounder of this argument is that CAG is not an income tax authority. CAG is a parallel body of Government of India operating at a parallel level. It is not the authority under section 116 of the Income Tax Act. So how that can become the basis of information or reopening by the AO? So I also partly agree with this view that CAG is not the income tax authority. And if any reopening is made on the basis of final objection by CAG, then definitely somebody will file writ petition and definitely reach up to Supreme Court by way of SLP to declare this amendment as unconstitutional, not tenable in law, and null and void. So they have got fair chance. Now let us see again. Any information flag or final objection by CAG. This is the way you should learn the law by heart. No mugging up. Now section 148. What does it say? In the case of search under section 132, or in the case of requisitioning of books or documents under section 132A. Remember the word. I am sure somebody will raise the question on this subsection. So now only I am clarifying. Search initiated, not completed after 1421. So new provisions will apply to search as well as requisitioning of document under section 132A initiated after 1421. That means search which has started before 1421 are governed by old Act. But after 14/2021, new provisions. Now, survey which is taking place after 130, that is 1421, under section 133A, they will also be governed by reopening. Now, what is the other requirement? That the assessing officer is satisfied with the prior approval that any money, bullion, jewelry, or other valuable things in the case of third party after 1421 belongs to the SSC. Now, suppose a man is going on the road with 1 crore rupees cash and he's found, but assessing, and he's found by police. Police hands over to assessing officer, and assessing officer finds that any money, bullion, jewelry, etc. belongs to other person or after one that belongs to the SSC, then also new provisions will apply. We will discuss such provisions little later because 153 ABC have been abolished. Now, after 1421, he has to obtain the permission of principal commissioner or commissioner, as the case may be, on the basis of information available to him. Now the assessing officer shall be deemed to have information which suggests the income. So reason to believe everything is abolished, recording of reason nothing. Either information from flagging by the CBDT system or by audit objection, or under these three cases, search, requisitioning and survey, there is an automatic provision of reopening under section 148. Now, as I told you, let us summarize. Search under 132, requisitioning under 132A, survey under 133A, or it belongs to third person, then with the prior approval, he can initiate notice under section 148. Let us become stronger in our belief and understanding that all provision require reason to believe. Now only information is necessary. Special provision where relevant assessment is assessed in the 143. For example, they were special provision that if scrutiny assessment has taken place, then unless there is a failure on the part of the assessee, reopening could not be made after more than 4 years from the end of the assessment year. But here there is no such provision. So now we will see the time limit in a few minutes from now. Section 148A. What it says? Shall before issuing notice under section 148. This is the amendment of 2021. Now again there is an amendment in 2022 that we will see in few minutes from now. So officer has to conduct inquiry with respect to the information. For example, bogus donation is informed to the AO that such and such SSC has given bogus donation. So now they are not making any inquiry and straightway issuing the notice before 2021. I have reason to believe that there is a bogus donation, so escapement of this amount, and I am issuing the notice with the prior approval. This is not now permitted. He has to conduct inquiry. Where is the trust, whether it is registered or not, whether they have been cancelled or not, etc., etc., etc. After conducting the inquiry, proper opportunity of being heard to the SSC is required to be given with the prior approval of the authorities. And in the show cause notice, 7 days time was required to be given and maximum was 30 days. That why 148 should not be issued. So this is nothing but objections from the assessee could be raised under section 148A into bracket B. What was the requirement under C? That he has to consider the reply of the assessee, which is furnished under section 148AB. And thereafter, AO has to decide on the basis of material available, whether it is a fit case for reopening or not, and he has to pass the order with the prior approval of the specified authority within 1 month from the end of the month in which reply is received by him under section 148AC. Or where no reply is given, then within 1 month from the end of the month or extended time to furnish the reply under B expires. What is this 148A? It is nothing but embodiment of Supreme Court judgment in the case of GK and Drive Shaft, which required the assessing officer to give the reason recorded for reopening and deal with the reason recorded for reopening and pass the order. Now this has been embodied under section 148A. For the notices issued after 1421 and pass the order so that assessee can come to know that the order under section 148A(d) requires certain reasoning for reopening. Now let us see further. 148A continue. In the three cases, as I told you, search, survey, seizure, finding of these, this is automatic, so no order is required. Now, reassessment proceedings. In the finance bill of 2022, now a proviso is proposed to be introduced that no approval is necessary in case the order is under section 148A(d). Imagine, so the approval portion is done away with. So again, there will be rampant reopening if the bill is passed and becomes the act. In Finance Bill 2022, now show cause notice is not required. Imagine, without show cause notice, AO is passing some order against you, and that too without approval. This is highly unconstitutional and highly undemocratic. Now, another thing under the word information, flagging of the information was there. Now that is omitted. What does it mean? That any audit objection, information, or from other ITO or from other information, if he receives, then that will become information for reopening. So now, Andheri Nagri, Gandu Raja, Take Share Bhaji, Take Share Karta. No approval necessary, no show cause necessary, information flagging is not necessary. Then what is necessary? Wherever any information AO feels it is necessary, he can reopen this. Now, 148A, another proposed in the bill of 2022 is that shall exclude the information received by the AO under the faceless collection of information under section 135A. Okay, there is a consequential amendment. Now, another amendment which is proposed in the Finance Bill 2022 is that notice under section 148 shall be issued after 3 years, but before 10 years, in case the AO has books of account, other documents revealing that income transaction to tax represented in the form of an asset, expenditure, or in relation to an event or occasion, or an entry or entries in the books of account as escape assessment. In the amendment of 2021, there was a heavy and big lacuna. What did it prescribe? That income chargeable to tax in the form of an asset must have escape assessment. So if bogus purchases are found, that is expenditure, no reopening was possible. Similarly, wedding expenses are found, that could not be reopened because that was expenditure. Similarly, bogus share capital, bogus share premium, bogus loan, bogus entry found in the books, no reassessment was possible under Finance Act 2021. Now this has been fully amended. Any entry or entries in the books of account can become the reason for reopening. However, this is effective from assessment year 23-24. That means even for the current year which is going on, that is assessment year 22-23, no reopening is possible in respect of items other than the asset. Now, let us go further. Now we have discussed reassessment provisions at length. But in the budget, that is Finance Act 2022, fortunately, the much anticipated saving clause, there was a rumor that all the reopening which have been made without following 148A might become legal by retrospective amendment. Nothing doing, because in the case of Vodafone, in the case of Kane Energy, various courts up to Supreme Court and international courts, central government has accepted the proposition that retrospective amendments would normally be not followed by the government in any finance bill hereinafter. So there are three judgments, C4. Manmohan Kohli, then Allahabad Ashok Agarwal, Rajasthan BPIP Infra, Calcutta High Court Manoj Jain. In all these judgments, various high courts have held that notices issued after 1421 without following 148A are not valid notices, and they are quashed. Some high courts have told and held that AO is at freedom to follow 148A. But what about the time limit? We will see in a few minutes from now. Many notices may become invalid or illegal. Now, yesterday I was reading one Supreme Court order in the case of this Ashok Kumar Agrawal. As you are aware that government has filed SLP against Allahabad High Court judgment before the Honorable Supreme Court. In that Supreme Court hearing, yesterday one order is passed by one of the benches of Supreme Court and fixed the hearing in the month of March. So these judgments are not final at all. Now let us understand the procedure prescribed under section 148A in a tabular form, because one chart explains 1,000 words. So AO is to conduct the inquiry, AO is to give opportunity, and thereafter he has to form the opinion that the fit case, and then he has to consider the reply, and then he has to consult the superior authority, and then pass the order under section 148A(d). Now, after having discussed 148A, main bone of contention is 149. What is 149? Time limits. This is also very, very important. And on this also hundreds of writ petitions have been filed. No notice under section 148 shall be issued. This is under, mind you well, this is under Finance Act 2021. If 3 years have passed, unless the case falls under B. What it B says? More than 3, but not more than 10 years. Then in such case, concealment should be more than 50 lakhs or more. So below 50 lakhs could be assessed and reopened under section 149A only for 3 years. So now all the notices which are held invalid and opportunity is given to the assessing officer to follow 148A. But then if it is above 50 lakh, time period might have elapsed or expired. So it may become invalid. Of course, subject to Supreme Court hearing. Now, provided further that these subsections shall not apply where a notice under section 153A or C, read with 153C, is required to be held in relation to a search initiated before 31st March. Meaning by, as I told you, 153 ABC applies only to the searches which have been initiated before 31st day of March 2021. Thereafter, section 148 and 148A will apply. Now, another provision that the period of limitation or the time period allowed is subject to show cause notice under section 148A. But in the case of search, survey and requisitioning of book, no order is required to be passed. So in those cases, no order is required and straightway 148 will apply. Now let us understand again the tabular form. Many people have got confusion in their mind. Before 2021 budget, what was the position? Normal case. Up to the 4 years from the end of the relevant assessment year, if there was a scrutiny assessment. If there was no scrutiny assessment, and if the income escaping assessment exceeded 1 lakh, then up to 6 years it was possible. And if there were foreign assets located outside India, then 16 years reopening was there. And under search and seizure, 153 ABC was for 10 years. Now everything is removed. See what is the new provision as per 2021 Finance Act. Number 1, normal case. Whether scrutiny or no scrutiny, no differentiation. No differentiation. Up to 3 years, it is allowed. No quantum limit. Up to 3 years, any limit reopening is feasible. And beyond 3 years, but up to 10 years, the escapement should be 50 lakhs or more. So now you'll ask me a question that what will happen to foreign assets? There is no mention about the foreign assets in the new provision. So it is covered under 10. Many people were very happy and jubilant when Finance Act 2021 was passed. Why? Because they thought the time limit of 6 years is reduced to 3 years, which is not correct. On the contrary, time limit of 6 years is enhanced to 10 years. Of course, above 50 lakhs. And below 50 lakhs, it is reduced to 3 years. On other hand, search and seizure cases are covered under 148 and 10 years limits similarly apply. Even survey, requisitioning all 10 years without any order applies. Only benefit is that foreign assets will be clubbed with 10 years limit. Now, a controversy may arise that whether the assessment year could have been reopened as per the erstwhile provisions of 31(3)21 or not. Now, what happened is the benefit of tax 10 years should be available to the department from assessment year 14-15. Since it was the last assessment year that could have been opened as on 31(3)2021. So on this point, we will see further interpretations. Chaliye, let us see this slide. I'm requesting participants to note down the queries and forward to the convener. We will take up all the queries at the end. And if there are no queries, there are two meanings. Either everything is understood fully or everything is bumper. Okay. Now illustrative table. There are two interpretations. Whether it will cover assessment year 14-15 or not. One interpretation is that income escaping assessment is less than 50 lakhs. Then it goes out and it starts from 18-19. Now income escaping rupees 50 lakhs or more. First interpretation is that 13-14 is not possible. 14-15 is not possible. But 15-16 onward it is possible. But second interpretation says that reopening may be possible on or before 31(3)25 in the case of 14-15 also. So this chart will be given to you and you can study the time limit accordingly up to 23-24. Now let us go to the new section 151. As I told you, authorities for 148 and 148A. Which are the authorities? Principal Commissioner, what we were calling earlier only Commissioner. So PCIT, or Principal Director, that is DI, or Commissioner or Director, if 3 years or less than 3 years have elapsed. Then in other case, more than 3 years, but up to 10 years, then Principal CC, Principal Director General, or if there is no Principal CC or Principal DG, then CCIT or DGIT in the case of more than 3 years. Now, as I told you, now we have discussed the sections very well. Now let us analyze the impact. What happened? As I told you in the case of LM Das, Supreme Court very clearly held that formation of belief must have a rational nexus with the formation of the belief. Now this is done away with. Similarly, Ganga Saran Das, being satisfied is stronger than the word used in the section. So these are overruled. Now Kelvinator of India, change of opinion, that is also now overruled. Then Eastern Express Newspaper Society, audit objection. In fact, this is in the part of the section only. Now, search assessments. Search initiated on or before 31st March 2021, they will be governed by 153A, B, and C within 6 years prior to the date of the search and search assessment, search year. Whereas in new cases, applicable for search initiated after 31st March, and they will be assessed under section 147 to 148. Now, there is some confusion occurring and prevailing in various professional forums that if search is search-based assessment, the period for which the reopening shall be mandatory is now 3 assessments. In case the AO intends to reopen beyond 3 years, he can do so by complying with explanation 1. So this is nothing but embodiment of judgment of Kabul Chawla in the section itself. Now, certain FAQs I have formulated. It is better to discuss the questions and answer rather than talk about theory. So that's why I always devote half portion for the theory and half for the practical question answer. Let us begin with some question answer. Suppose scrutiny assessment is going on in a particular case. Whether AO can issue 148 or not. Answer is very simple. It is very likely that the said proceedings will have to continue because scrutiny itself is going on. Where is the need of reopening? Because whatever he wants to do under reopening, he can do very well under scrutiny assessment. So there is no need for scrutiny assessment going on, but reopening proposed by the AO. So what will prevail? Scrutiny will prevail when it is already going on. So in this regard, a fruitful reference may be made to Aditya Medicines by Gujarat High Court and Marwaris Shares and Finance Limited, Gujarat High Court again. So in effect, 2 parallel assessment cannot go on because 143.2 is already going on. So there is no need for issuing 148 notice. Now another issue which is going on, whether 143.2 notice, that is scrutiny notice, has not been issued, but time limit to issue notice under section 143.2 has not expired. Whether reopening is necessary. That means, for example, September is the time limit for issue of notice. No scrutiny selection is made. Can the AO make 148 straight away? So on this issue, there are divergent views. What one issue which is in the favor of assessee, that is the first view. It says that when time limit for scrutiny notice has not passed or expired, how AO wants to issue 148? Again, he can carry on 143(2) straight away. So on that issue, Bombay High Court, in the case of Srimati Suman, as well as in the case of Catalyzed Software, Madras High Court, and Chennai Tribunal, third member in the case of super spending, it stated that when scrutiny notice has not been issued, but time limit for scrutiny notice is still not over, then of course 148 need not be valid notice. But there are two other judgments, Allahabad High Court and Delhi High Court, which say that notice under section 147 or 148 can still be issued even if time limit for scrutiny notice under section 143 is not issued or pending. Now in this case, you may ask me which judgment you should follow. Obviously, Supreme Court itself in the case of vegetable products has held that whenever there are two judgments, even one of the jurisdictional high court, you need not follow the judgment which is in the favor of the revenue, because in the case of conflict between two judgments of different high court, you can follow the judgment which is favorable to you. Now, let us see the frame of the reassessment in a nutshell. Reason to believe gone, information. Procedure for issuing reason to believe as escape is no longer required. Then he has to conduct the inquiry, grant an opportunity, consider a reply, pass an order. Sanctioning authority up to 4 years, Joint Commission up to 4 years, PCCID, CCID were there. Now up to 3 years this, and after 3 years this. Earlier time limit was 4 to 16 years, now it is 3 to 10 years. And time limit to complete the assessment 12 months from the end, no change. So this is a tabular representation of 2021 amendment. Now 2022 amendment are still not passed. So it is still lying with the parliament. But all is not well. 148 became bone of contention and thousands of writ petitions are filed all over India. So what is popularly called in the software language, that the reopening provision of 148 and 148A, there are hundreds of complications and challenges. It's a Trojan horse. Many hidden things are there inside. Now let us see what is the department's view. Finance Act 2021 makes it clear that the amendment to section 148 has been made from 1421. And therefore, old section 148 does not exist. Correct. But because of pandemic of COVID-19, dates for issue of 148, scrutiny assessment, and so many other things have been extended from time to time. And June 30th was the time limit. But now, does it apply to the notices issued after 1421 by taking the recourse? That no, it is because of the amendment by way of circulars of the CBDT that time limit is extended. Answer is simple. No, it cannot override the substantive amendment in the procedural law. Now, provisions of section 148 have to be read in their amended form from 1/4/2021 in the absence of saving clause. There is no saving clause. that in respect of this year, because of CBDT circular, it will be legally valid. Nothing is mentioned in the section. So a considered and honest view can be therefore taken that notices after 1421 is liable to new procedure under section 148A, as is held by several high courts and now which is lying before the Supreme Court. Now, after going through the relaxation and amendment, provisions issued by the Ministry of Finance, that all the relaxations and no power is delegated to CBDT to provide relaxation and amendment. Under section 119, only power is given to extend the benefit to the SSE, whereas extension of time limit for issuing notice under section 148 is for the benefit of AO. So whether this is a valid argument or not. So 119 is not a beneficial section so far as department is concerned. Therefore, by no stretch of imagination, department can contend that section 119 extension given for the AO to issue the notices applies to the new provisions under section 148 and 148. Now on this issue, you may ask me that what is the supporting legal argument? Simple. 4 judgments of different high courts. In the case of Kerala Financial Corporation, Tata Tele, Bimal Chandra Banerjee and Rakesh Kumar Agarwal, they have time and again held that section 119 is for the benefit of the SSE. That means any extension of time given by the CBDT cannot override the act. That means if 148A is not followed for the notices issued after 1/4/2021, CBDT cannot extend the time under section 119 because that is against the interest of the assessor. Now, again, there is a controversy on issue of the extension of time. What happened is that time to time, dates were extended, and ultimately extension of date was up to 30th June 2021. So all the departmental AOs were under impression that any notice issued under 148 up to 30th June 2021 was valid even if 148A is not followed. Now this is the argument which is going on before the Supreme Court in month of March 2022. Now, several writ petitions were admitted. For example, in the case of Armada, Bombay High Court said, okay, that this is not a proper thing. Now, proceeding under section 148 is stayed. However, in certain High Court writ petition, petitioners did not challenge 148A. They only challenged the period of reopening. Then validity of notice under section 148 was never challenged. So now let us come to some of the important judgments which you can quote in your objections under section 148. This is a very important judgment. General Finance Company 257 ITR 338, Supreme Court held that when principles underlying section 6 of General Clauses Act, a saving right to initiate proceeding for liabilities incurred during the currency of the Act would not apply to the omission of a provision in the Act, but only to repeal omission being different. Held, yes, since section 276 DD stood omitted from the Act, but not repealed, prosecution could not have been launched or continued by invoking section 6 of the General Clauses. That means general clauses do not prevail over the specific clauses of the Act. Similarly, in the case of Bhagat Ram Sharma, same way, CBDT is a statutory authority functioning under the Central Board of Revenue Act, and the issuance of notification, extending the due date for the issuance of notice beyond the existing relevant period, amount to excessive delegation. So on these also things are going on. But in my opinion, this view may not survive because pandemic of COVID-19 is an unusual and historical event. If SSEs want extension, why not the officer should get extension? But for the reopening, they may not give extension. That is my opinion. Now let us come to validity of notice under section 148. In various cases, Tata Communication, Sahil International, Bagadia Properties, Mudra Finance, Ladura Bangar HUA, Bilwada, validity of notice under 148 was challenged and held in the favor of the assessee. And all these petitions are now lying before Honorable Supreme Court. This is the main case, Ashok Kumar Agarwal, which is first case going to Supreme Court. Similarly, in the case of BPIF Infra, Rajasthan High Court held that if 148A is not followed, then it deserves to be quashed. However, Rajasthan High Court left open to the assessing authority to initiate reassessment proceeding as per the amended. That means up to 3 years he can do. If it is below 50, above 50, he has to follow 148A procedure. Similarly, let me tell you here, this Monmohan Kohli's case, Delhi High Court also quashed that 148A is not followed. But some website reported this as a Supreme Court judgment. That is why I always say that this doctorate from WhatsApp University, they are spreading more fact information other than the real information. That was the judgment from Delhi High Court. And they have stated that this is the Supreme Court judgment. And people were jubilant that they have won all the cases. No, it is a long drawn process, still even not started also. Okay. Now, latest case laws. That Delhi High Court in the case of faceless assessment said that may is a shell, personal hearing. Now in this budget, this is gone. So in certain cases, even cost was imposed for not granting the personal hearing. Okay. Now, some of the question and answer on 148, we will take up one by one. Then I will take up your questions and answers. Notice under section 148, as I told you, assessment of 31 up to 31/3/21. It was time barred if not issued on 31/3/2020. However, due to extension, it became time barred on 31/3/2021. Now, this is the issue going on. Under old 148, 31/3/21 for assessment is 30/14 and 14/15. Whether it is valid? No, as discussed earlier, only remedy is writ petition. One more practical suggestion. Whenever you write objection to reasons recorded by AO for reopening, always write that objections are raised under section 148 read with 292 BB. Why? Because otherwise AO will say that you have participated in the reassessment proceeding, so you have lost the right, forfeited the right of objecting in appeal and tribunal. Any letter of objection must be under 148 read with 292 BB. Also, you write under grievance of in-nivaran. Also, you write to the email IDs which are created by faceless assessment that this notice is not valid. Now, third question. whether notice under 148 old issued after 31/3/21 for assessment year 15/16, 16/17 and 17/18 is valid. How to challenge? Answer is no again. Only read petition and file objection under 148 read with 292 BB. Also under e-Nivaran, because AO can still initiate under the new law if it is red flag under the information. Now let us come to question number 4. Whether notice issued after 1/4/21 for assessment year 11/12 is valid. Yes, as per new regime. AO to wait for 4 weeks after disposing objection. Remember, there are judgments of various high court, including Bombay High Court, that after disposing objection, AO cannot straightway issue 142(1). He has to wait for 4 weeks, that is 1 month. If he issues 142(1) next day, immediately object. Okay. Immediately object that 142(1) is not proper. Now, order will be invalid if objections not dealt with even properly. What some AOs are doing, I find that the objections are not proper and I dismiss. That's not correct. He has to pass speaking order. So Delhi High Court, Bombay High Court in the case of Ankita Choksi, and again safe deposit, first stick safe deposit, Bombay High Court, and SLP dismissed in the same case. Order will become invalid if the objections are not disposed properly. Another thing, that mechanical approval by the commissioner or the concerned authority under section 151 is not proper. It is held in the case of German Remedies, Vaman Chaudhary, Central India, Bombay and Delhi High Court. Similarly, as I told you, Jet Airways, original issue of reopening must be added under 148, otherwise it becomes invalid. So these judgments are still valid. Now let us go to question number 5. If SSCS file returns under section 148 old for assessment year 13/14 to 16/17, what will be the position? There is no option to demand the reasons recorded for reopening unless you have filed fresh return of income. Remember, many people are under wrong impression that you can get the reason recorded for reopening even without filing fresh return under section 148. Because if ITO gives you reason recorded for reopening, then accordingly you will revise the return. So which is not correct. Reason recorded will be furnished to you only after you file even same return. Ditto same return you file. Pi to pi, rupee to rupee and anna to anna. No requirement to change. But you have to admit that this is the new return filed by you and therefore reasons recorded may be furnished to me. Even if return is filed and reasons are obtained, the same does not act against the SSC because your right to challenge reason recorded is the initial and basic right, and this is not a defect under section 292 BB. But my suggestion is still that you object under section 292 BB, and even if you're not object under 292 BB, you can still challenge the reason recorded. Now question number 6. Under old section 148, if return is filed within 30 days, then it is okay. But if it is filed after 30 days of the notice, whether it is valid, then in that case, there is one order of Jaipur Tribunal which says that yes, as per Bawal synthetics, it is valid. But in that case, no issue of notice under section 143(2) will not be required at all. That means even in the case of 148, notice of 143.2 is not required if it is filed after 30 days. Now question number 7. If old provision 147 includes our any other income, under new provision that is not there, but in the explanation it is there. I told you. Now somebody will ask whether explanation is supreme or section is supreme. But according to my view, since explanation is very clear, this objection will not survive. Question number 8. In the above case, what will be the impact on the appeals pending under the new provisions? This is very important. Now, there are no such provisions in the new act. So I can contest that once the order is in appeal, for example, my first order is in appeal, first scrutiny order is in appeal, then no proceeding under section 147 can be initiated. Under new provisions, there is no such requirement. So I can succeed. Now, Sexaria Cotton Mills Limited, Bombay High Court, what it held that if you are on appeal under some particular points, that only cannot be reopened, but other points can be reopened. However, under the new provision, there is no distinction. So SSCs will always challenge, and this will be hundreds of writ petition will come on this also. Then my appeal was pending, so no reopening is possible. Now question number 9. What is the implication of omission of explanation 2 of the old provision under section 147? We describe the cases where income chargeable to taxes escaped the asset. Of course, I would always say, what is the requirement? Red flagging. And now even that is done away with. So ITO will be able to open all those cases even without flag. Question number 10. Whether reopening period is reduced or enhanced. Actually, reassessment is now permitted up to 10 years instead of 6 years. So it is indirectly increased. Now, AO should be in the possession of the books of accounts or other documents, escape the income. Income should be 50 lakhs or more for that year. Then it will apply above 3 years. Next. Question number 11. Can a case be reopened even after expiry of 10 years? In the case of foreign assets, no. That provision is now no longer valid because maximum is 10 years. Question number 12. What will happen to the foreign assets reopening for 16 years? It has merged with 10 years. So those who are having Panama paper, this paper, that paper and whatnot, they are very happy because their reopening is now curtailed to 10 years. 13. Reason to believe is dropped. Yes, only information is required. Failure to disclose material fact is dropped. Yes. So many case laws are overruled. That means this is 14 number is against the SSC. 13 is in the favor. Otherwise information, he can reopen. But failure to disclose the material fact is also dropped. So that 4-year limit, scrutiny assessment, no scrutiny, everything is gone. Now, question number 15. Is it necessary for AO to apply his own judgment? No. All regarding judgment, satisfaction, belief, crushed, totally finished. Question number 16. If no income chargeable to tax has escaped assessment, whether the case can be reopened under section 147? Yes, if there is information with the AO. Question number 17. Whether new issues can be covered under section 148? Yes, the issue that will arise now will be whether the AO drops the assessment under section 143.2 and issues notice under section 148. Whether new claim of deduction can be, according to me, no. 148 is not for the benefit of the assessee. You cannot make new claims under 148. For example, you have forgotten to claim something in original assessment. Can you claim under 148? No. But to this, my answer would be different. There is a Supreme Court judgment of National Thermal Power. And also in the case of Prithvi Stockbroker, which says that new claim can always be raised before appellate authority, that is CIT appeal and ITAT. So, okay, because of Gates India's Supreme Court judgment, I cannot revise my return. I can't claim under 148, but I will claim in appeal. So my right to claim deduction which are lawful are still not withdrawn even by amended section 148, even by Finance Act 2022. Next, whether income chargeable to tax has escaped assessment but reopening is not possible on foot. Yes, if no information, no reopening. There may be glaring possibility of escapement, but if there is no information, it cannot be reopened. Now, whether provisions of explanation 1, 2 to section 1 are unconstitutional. Yes, I told you. CAG's report is a property of Parliament, and that is made public by way of uploading on the website under your PAN number. So somebody will challenge this is unconstitutional, and on that basis, if any reopening is made, that should be held unconstitutional. Can AO treat objection under CAG report as information? According to me, no. Section 148 applies to such cases? No. There is no need to give notice, basis, etc. Straightway reopening because 153 ABC is abolished. Is the procedure of 148A applicable to extended period of old section 148? Highly debatable. That's why there are hundreds of writ petitions. Whether service of 148A(d) order is necessary in all the cases while issuing notice under section 148? No. Because order of 148A(d) is mandatory in non-search only. In search case, it is not required at all. So notice of 148 for the search assessment will not require any order to be attached under section 148A(d) because no order is to be passed. That is the thing. Question number 24. Yes, this is the amendment. What is the meaning of represented in the form of the asset? That means by Finance Act 2021, reopening was possible only for asset, but 99% of the reassessment were for expense or liability, share capital, share premium, loan, gift, sundry creditor, and whatnot, all liabilities. They cannot be reopened. So Finance Act 2022 has amended this provision. Now question number 25. Whether section 68 are assets or liabilities. They were not covered because they were liabilities. So no reopening is possible. Whether bogus expenditure, say bogus purchases, bogus commission, bogus donation is covered, earlier not. But by Finance Act 2022, yes. Whether loan taken before 31/3/2013 from the companies which are struck off by MCA, can reopening be made if loans are still unpaid after 1/4/21? No. In fact, CBDT has already approached NCLT for revival of such shell companies because what people have done, they have taken loans from shell companies before 13 and they are continuing in the books for several years. So what will happen? 13 reopening is not possible. So now still battle is going on. 28. Does asset include cash? Yes. Question number 29. Can AO issue notice under section 148 in respect of information received after 31/3/2021, but search is conducted before 31/3? ये क्या है? एग्जाम का पेपर जैसा है. Questions are always complicated, but answer is simple. Cutoff date is 31/3/2021. Simple answer. If search is initiated before 31/3/2021, 153 ABC will apply. If search is conducted after 1/4/21, new provisions will apply. Why to confuse the issue and make it a debatable issue? Section 153A to 53, they have merged with 148. Yes. Now there is no longer requirement of 153A to D. Now, in the case of Mita Gudgutia and several other cases of Supreme Court, 153 ABC could be initiated only if there is a incrementing material for unabated assessment. Now that requirement is no longer there. Even if there is no incriminating material, notice under section 148 can be merely issued. Question number 32. Is any abatement of pending under section 148 in the case of search? There is no concept of abatement. Straightway AO will issue notice under section 148. No requirement of 148A also. Now 33 question. Whether pending cases under section 143(3) will merge with the cases under 148 in case of search. In this, there is no clarification, because that concept of pending cases is under old 148 is not clarified here at all. Now, the funny thing will be 148 cases are faceless or not. No, 148 is physical because they are search cases. And in case of 143(3), it may be physical. Suppose some assessee's case is going on faceless under 143(3), and search takes place today, and 148 is issued. So search cases are physical. So what happened to that? No clarification at all. It was expected in Finance Bill of 2022, but nothing is clarified so far. So according to me, this will lead to further litigation. Question number 34. In the case of third party, is there any need for AO to record the satisfaction? No, I said no. Search means direct 148. What about penalty under section 271AA(b)? Section 153A itself is replaced, but 271AA(b) is not amended. Therefore, the benefit of concessional rate of penalty will not be available to the new sections under search. Now, whether notice under scrutiny notice under section 143(2) is necessary or not. Earlier, in the case of Ashok Chadda, 20taxman.com, 387 Delhi High Court has stated that under 153A or C, there is no requirement to issue notice. But now there is no requirement to issue 143(2) in the case of search. These were some of the provisions. Now there are some related points which I am touching. Just as DO got DRP for transfer pricing, here now for other than transfer pricing litigation, we have got Dispute Resolution Committee, DRC, and it will be faceless. Anyone with total income of less than 50 lakhs rupees and disputed income below 10 lakhs can approach DRC. This will have multiple benches like ITAT, and this will reduce the litigation of small taxpayers. Today you must be seeing that in ITAT, suddenly there is some case of 50,000 rupees also and 500 crore also. So now total income below 50 lakhs and total income below and disputed income below 10 lakhs additions can approach Dispute Resolution Committee. This will reduce the litigation. Ultimate aim of the government of India is to reduce the litigation. Yes, now there are instructions dated 4/3/2021. It says what is the information. Audit objection, revenue audit, internal audit, and government agencies, law subsidy se aaya, idhar se aaya, udhar se aaya, and potential cases. It comes from DDI, investigation wing, then INCU, Indian Intelligence and Criminal Investigation wing, then NMS, non-filers. Some people are not filing the return at all. They are flagged by Director of Income Tax System as per risk profiling. Cases where information survey action, cases of information received from Income Tax Authority requiring under 148. So these are some of the instances which lead to reopening. Now, in the meantime, two developments have taken place. What has happened is that loss on account of, in NACL, there were lots of schemes and reopening has taken place. So they had given money to the brokers and on a fixed return basis. So loss arising on payment made to NACL through registered broker for purchase of so-called commodities, which were never delivered. Silver, potato, these, that, nothing was delivered. Whether it is allowable as a business loss or a speculation loss, that was the issue. Now, recently, Bombay Tribunal, in the case of Nirshilp Securities Private Limited and Dollar Investment Limited, has held that any loss on account of NACL non-speculative, it is a business loss and it is not a speculative loss. So you can set off against your business income, and reopening of the cases made on this basis need not worry at all. Now, another thing which is rampantly going on in capital market is client code modification, popularly called CCM. Future and option derivatives transactions were carried out by the SSEs. And it is the allegation of the department that many people transferred profits or losses to other entities by changing the client code. That is why it is called client code modification. Now, there are several cases. One is the PAT commodities, again Nirshil, then Dolat, then Gandhit Khemka. This was argued by me in Jaipur, Kumarji Finance, Ahmedabad. These cases have held that even reopening is not legitimate in such cases. And Bombay High Court, in the case of Coronation Agro Industries, held that this cannot become the basis of reopening. Next day, there was another judgment of Bombay High Court, which said that reopening can be made. But as I told you, vegetable products, Supreme Court says, if there are two conflicting judgments, one which is favorable to the SSE has to be followed. That is why Coronation Agro Industries Limited has to be followed by all people under the jurisdiction of Bombay High Court. I have reasonably covered issues touching 148 right up to the amendment in Finance Bill 2022. So now, before I wind up my session, I throw open the session for queries, if any.
Any one of you who have any queries or questions may please unmute themselves and ask the query. In the meantime, we have two questions in the chat box. One has been asked by Devangji, and his question is whether notices issued under Section 148 prior to 1st April 2021 are valid.
No, just excuse me. There was some problem in my network. I missed the question totally.
No problem, sir. I'll repeat it for you, please.
Please.
Devangji asks whether notices issued under Section 148 prior to 1st April 2021 are valid after the High Court judgments.
I told this repeatedly during the session that this issue is now before Supreme Court, and Supreme Court will decide whether it is valid or not. Several high courts have struck down, but now department is in Supreme Court.
Okay, Devangji, I hope this satisfies your query. Appropriate reply. Another one is from Alpesh Kothari ji. He asks, notice under section 143(2) is issued without giving reasons for reopening. Whether such notices are valid?
As I told you, reasons cannot be given with the notice. Then you will accordingly change your mind. ये तो पहले suggest an answer चाहिए, बाद में exam paper चाहिए. That is not correct procedure of exam. You will get suggested answer after the result is declared. 30.52% for second group. So you have to appear for the exam under 148. You can't straightway ask suggest answer which are written by the examiner and sitting in the air-conditioned cabin of Board of Studies.
Alpesh ji, in case you have any further queries, you may unmute yourself and ask, please.
Bhupendra ji, actually return has already been filed under section 148, and
Yes.
thereafter they have straight away issued the notice under section 143(2) without giving the results for reopening.
That is straightway illegal and totally bad in law. You clap your hands. This is in your favor. Let him proceed nonsense. He will immediately you will lose the case, department.
Okay.
I told you 142(1), 1 month notice is required.
Okay.
Many officers are not aware of the procedures also.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay, sir.
You should be happy that your case is the strongest one today.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
No, there is no question. Thank AO, not me.
Sir, another one is from Kunal Gandhi ji. He asks, new section 149, can notice be issued for assessment year 14-15? And why is it a debatable issue?
Because as I told you, 10 years, whether to be counted from the original date or from the extended date, that is the issue.
Kunal ji, I hope that answers your query.
He will
Ramesh
ask me personally also. He knows me very well. So he will ask me personally on phone after you disconnect me from Zoom.
Okay.
Because he will not be satisfied with this SMS answer.
Right.
Yes.
Sir, Ramesh Goyal ji asks, can investigation wing ask assessing officer to reopen the case on the basis of cash deposit in bank in case of a private limited company?
See, internal departments of income tax. Now that is gone. No, they will pass on the information. Even that flagging is removed. So everything is now under the sky. So you have to thank your luck now. Yes.
Okay. That answer, that was the entire list of questions asked till now on the chat box. Members, in case you have still any queries or questions, you may please unmute yourself and ask our speaker, sir. I'll leave the session open for 2 minutes.
If there are no questions, there are two meanings. Everything is understood fully or everything is fully bumper.
Right, sir, right.
So either of things are not desirable. Because otherwise the very purpose. In fact, 1 month back, I had attended one inauguration of new study circle where president of ICI told that whether after this online study circles meeting, whether you require physical study circle, just in a lighter mode, everybody said, no, you require, because certain explanation given personally are always more effective.
Very true.
Yes, Mr. Bora?
Sir, he asks whether there is any time limit for raising objections.
Yeah, actually, after he gives the reasons recorded for reopening, if you don't object within a reasonable time, then he cannot wait up to the last date for issuing 142(1). And normally nowadays they write the date also. Objections, if any, may be raised before this date. I have seen that. Faceless assessment, nirmukh akarani. Faceless assessment. Sanskrit word is what? Nirmukh akarani. So that is posing a problem and benefit and disadvantages both. And in one faceless assessment, somebody requested me, this is like tribunal, can you appear? I appeared. that the assessing officer was not knowing that he has to switch off his video, and he showed me his face. I was very happy to see his face. In another case, he did not even remove his name. For example, I can see Gaurang Shah Naam here, Anil Shah Naam here, Alpesh Kothari, Sahit. They did not remove the name. I wrote the name merrily. ITO 111 Jaipur. Actually, it was ACIT 11 Jaipur. So easily you can come to. So they are also learning. And
Right.
we are learning and learning both. Yes.
Right.
Any other question? Yes, Mr. Sushil Dalmia. Yes, please.
Sir, he thanks you.
No, that thanking is not yet over. Don't worry, Mr. Dalmia. It is still, Orang is still there. Don't worry. Anyway, so let me complete my session with the last line. Life itself is a reopening. Leave your old and wretched ideas, old ideas. Come with the new ideas, fresh ideas. Start up your life with amended provisions of vigor and enthusiasm. That is the motto of life. Thank you very much for passionate hearing, and see you someday, some platform. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Thank you so much, sir. We'll close this session. Bhupendra sir, on behalf of the Study Circle, I would like to extend my word of thanks for sharing your valuable time, insights, and knowledge on this topic. The session covered a very comprehensive aspect into the reasoning and issuing notices, time limits, assessment issues, and the judicial updates were also explained very much in detail, and your analysis and reasoning with illustrations, the FAQ explanations and rulings were all very helpful. The tabular analysis between old and new was also very helpful and easy to understand. I'm sure all the participants, sir, would have gained a very good insight into this update, which will help them in understanding them better and apply them in their professional work. Once again, sir, I thank you on behalf of the Andheri West Study Circle. I also thank the participants for their patient listening and hope this session proved helpful to them in their professional work. Thank you, everyone, and have a nice day.
Thank you, everybody.
Just a request, can you share the presentation?
Yeah, I'll be giving PDF just now in 1 minute to Gaurav.
If possible for you and if convenient, can we share it on this chat box?
PDF I have not covered, not met PDF.
PPT would be fine as well, sir, if you can upload.
So I can, I think 1 minute, I'll share the screen again.
Okay.
Yeah, you take this, new provision, this one. This one is the one which I have spoken just now.
Okay. I think, sir, I will not have access to your computer. If you can open the chat box, I can basically guide you.
Yeah.
So if you can open the chat box.
My chat box is open, huh?
Okay, there is a paper kind of icon on right bottom.
Yeah.
On that, your computer. Then you can select that attachment, sir.
Okay, I've done that.
And then you can select open, so it will get uploaded over here.
Just 1 minute, huh?
No problem.
Because my desktop is full of documents and papers, so I should not select wrong thing.
No problem, sir.
No. This is.
Sir, if you will scroll down, you will get it.
Today's date you find anywhere. Today I have modified, that's why. For budget 2022.
Sir, do a single click on any one of the.
I have done.
And now you press. No, that box went away, sir.
Yeah, box went away. Yeah, my computer. Yes, it is there.
Yeah,
I have already clicked.
Only one. And now you press. What is the name of the file?
Oh, new provision was
new.
Yeah, this C122 is not correct, no?
Sir, I think you should select the 12/2/2022, the below one.
Yeah, this is the correct one. Yes, I have amended today morning only.
Yeah, you can open it, sir. Open
already.
It will get uploaded now. Thank you so much, sir.
Okay.
I'll leave the session open for 5 minutes for all the members to download it from here, please.
But they should not spread it like a virus,
No. Kindly adhere to the request of the speaker, please.
Because otherwise, some ghost speakers are speaking in my front only with my sessions PPT.
Sure.
I've experienced that in some cases.
Is it? Okay. I'll upload it in next 2 minutes, members. Please.
Normally I give after the session ends up to updated PDF. Even PDF can be broken in 1 minute, but still there's a mental satisfaction that PDF is given and not the open PPT.
I have received. Members, the PPT have been uploaded. I'll request everyone to download it from here, please.
Can I leave, Gaurang? Or I have to still hold on?
Surely, sir, you may leave. Thank you so much for your time, sir.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.